It's important to have guest experts speak with your students in the STEM space. While the experiences that they are having in your classroom are super, super powerful, you can bring a whole other dimension to their learning by hosting guest experts. In fact, there are studies on this. According to an article written by event.org, they say that children should be exposed to role models who look, sound, or learn like them to help them gain confidence in their own ideas, abilities, and potential. They should also be exposed to role models who are different from them so that they respect the ideas, abilities, and potential of others. In today's episode, I'll be sharing with you 3 ideas of how to use guest experts in your STEM classroom. Welcome to the Elementary STEM Coach Podcast, a show that'll help you with lesson ideas, systems, and actionable tips to apply to your classroom. I am your host, Naomi Meredith, a former classroom teacher turned current STEM teacher and coach. With over a decade of experience teaching and a master's degree in STEM leadership, I am here to coach you throughout the year to help you gain back more time to create innovative experiences for your students. Grab your earbuds and let's get started. Couple quick things before we get started. If you are loving this podcast, make sure to go ahead and write a review. I definitely want to share these on the show and how this podcast has been making an impact for you. This helps other teachers know if this podcast will be a good fit for them and help them along their STEM journey. In fact, here is a recent 5-star review by Kay Kinner Teach. Always what I need for my STEM lab. Naomi's podcasts are exactly what I need for helpful tips and tricks in the STEM lab. Every episode is full of great advice for a new STEM teacher. She continues to inspire me to try new things. Thanks so much for your review, Kay Kinner Teach. Also, if you missed out on the K-2 STEM virtual workshop, don't you worry. The whole experience was recorded. And when you sign up, you get access right away to that recording and all the resources that we used during that time together. That would be linked in the show notes for you, so you can definitely enhance your instruction for the little ones. Also, coming up in March, I will be starting a monthly virtual book club, a way for you to connect with STEM teachers monthly. Make sure to get on the wait list, naomimeredith.com/book club waitlist, so you know when it is going to be launched, and it'll be just in time for spring break and summer. So even if you don't read the book, you have access to all the materials each month, and you can still join in when we do our live Zoom sessions to connect with other teachers and talk about STEM topics. Of course, we'll talk about the book a little bit, but we'll also talk about things that are related, so it's okay if you don't read the story. So I'd love for you to jump on then when that is live. To help you through the process of connecting with a guest expert, I have collaborated with the edtech company Sam Labs, and we created a checklist to help you through that process. So that way you don't have to miss out on any of the important details when you are connecting with a guest expert that would be perfect with your STEM lessons, and it definitely simplifies the process. These are the exact steps that I used when I set up a guest expert in my classroom, and I want to help you out with that process so you're not overwhelmed. So make sure to check out the link in the show notes where you can grab that. And there's also some fun goodies when you click on that link that you definitely don't want to miss out on as well. With that in mind, here are 3 ideas how you can use guest experts in your STEM classroom. It really does break down the walls and barriers having these experts in your STEM space, and it really doesn't have to be boring. So the kids don't just have to sit and get the information. You can definitely make it interactive and really fun and tie it into your experiences. I will be going into more detail about some of this in the next episode, so just make sure you go and listen to that. And then I'm chatting with somebody else who I know who had a really cool guest expert experience, so hopefully I can get them on the show and they can chat to you about that. The first classroom guest speaker idea for STEM is to connect it to your class projects. This can be done in a few ways. And you can definitely use this for long-term projects or short-term projects. So maybe you are working on a project that lasts a whole week. Maybe you're working on something that lasts the whole year. You're building up to something for the whole year. A guest expert is a great experience for this. I know in a past episode when I was talking to a co-creator of Rock by Rock, we talked about guest experts quite often and how they use that in their curriculum. So make sure to go back and check out that episode because it was a really powerful episode and just some cool guest expert ideas that you can use in your lessons. When you have these guest experts and they're connecting to your lessons, you could have them come at the beginning of a lesson to help students build background about the topic. So we talk about in the imagine stage when we're doing the engineering design process or a similar type of process where you want students to build background about the information so it will inform their decisions when they are planning and creating their design. It's not just some random let's build whatever thing, but their design is purposeful. So having an expert talk about their experiences and having a related project they might have done and what has worked well, what hasn't, maybe some research they are currently working on that would relate to the project. These would be some cool ways to really engage students and ask questions of somebody who is currently in that similar type of role. Another way you could use an expert, it could even be the same expert, is have them come in during the experience when students are building. So students might have researched and built background a different way, informed their decisions, and then having this expert come in during that time is a really great way, again, for students to engage with that person. They might even have a different perspective than you as a teacher because they are working in a field that is similar to this. So they might even bring a really cool perspective on how students can improve their designs, and it might even just improve the overall project. And finally, another way that you could use the same expert or different is have them come in at the end of your experience and give students feedback on their designs. So this is a great way where students can share their work to a real life audience. And from there, that expert can share, wow, this would work really well, or I like how you thought of this design in this way. And here's some ways that you could definitely improve your design. And here's why based on my experience. This would be really powerful for kids to hear this type of feedback so they're not always hearing it from their peers or always hearing it from you as a teacher, but someone who really legit understands what is going on. That would be just a really neat experience for students to have in your classroom. Another classroom guest speaker idea for STEM that you can try is to have a STEM career day. This is something that I am in the background working on and hoping to host at my school in the spring. And it really came up very organically and randomly. I had a parent who volunteers at our school, who subs for us, who's super great. And she came in and we were chatting for a little bit. And she told me that in her past career, she was actually a packaging engineer. So they thought through the process of how things can be packaged in really purposeful and systematic ways. And she asked if she could come in and chat with the kids about her career. I told her, oh my gosh, I would love to have you. Logistically, it might be a little tricky because I want all the kids to hear from you. And we were talking a little bit more, and we came up with the idea how cool it would be to have a STEM career day where it would be an in-house field trip experience for all the kids in the school. Now, last year, we actually had to have a last minute inside recess day, and my PE teacher actually set up a really good rotation schedule where all the kids still got to participate in field day, but it was inside of the building. So I asked my PE teacher for that schedule because she already set it up. She even has rooms that are assigned where kids would rotate through. So I thought that this would be really helpful when I get to planning the STEM career day, because logistically, that way all the kids can experience this and hear from a ton of different experts in STEM in one day. And the reason why I'm also wanting to do this in the spring is we know the spring can get pretty crazy, and it can also be a little tricky as a STEM teacher. You don't always get to go on field trips. So you can bring the field trip to your school, and a really awesome way to have community partners and parents be involved in this experience. Also, if you are doing this during the day, this can guarantee that more kids can attend. It'll probably be free. You don't have to worry about buses. And you don't have to spend any time, let's say at the nighttime, setting this up and people are coming back to school, because that might not always be a possibility for all of the kids to attend. So that's why doing this during the day would be really awesome. When planning this, kids can rotate through 10 or so different careers in different rooms where the presenters can share a little bit about their jobs, how it relates to STEM, and even have a quick, engaging activity that they can do with the students. So, again, another cool way where kids can learn from their parents, each other's parents, see role models that are relevant and current in STEM fields, and help students even maybe dream of jobs that they never thought that they would have before. So stay tuned for future episodes. I'm definitely going to work this out and figure this out for my school. I think it'll be so much fun. I will figure out the process and figure out the kinks for you, and then we'll chat about it in a future episode. The last way of having a classroom guest speaker for your STEM space is to host a school-wide virtual assembly. Again, this is another great opportunity where you can have all classes involved. I hosted this past winter a school-wide virtual assembly for my school, and I'm definitely going to set another one up. And virtual was awesome. You could definitely do in person, but we did virtual for a couple reasons. The person who I had talked to our school lived a few hours away, and logistically, the weather was bad, so we just planned it as a virtual event. And also, the behavior management was way under control. I don't know about you, but my students haven't been to a lot of assemblies since COVID. We've had a few here and there, and they were absolutely chaotic. And there was a lot of parts of them that have been a waste of time. So when you do something virtual, you can jump right in. And the way that we did this is I was in my classroom. I didn't have any students, but I was handling all of the technology. So I was watching the chat. I was texting teachers who are having trouble getting into the Zoom. I had the presentation of the presenter pulled up just in case it wasn't going to work. And then I could jump in and do that, or I could fill in if there was a weird technical issue. So I was all on the technical side of this and had this all set up for my school. And then the students were in their homeroom classroom and they were watching this event live in their classroom. So again, this really helped with the behavior management. If there's students who needed a little bit of a movement break, they could do that. The first grade and kindergarten, I believe they watched the whole time, but if they needed to drop off at the end when we got to the question and answer session, they totally could do that. And there were even a few classes that were combined during this time. So if there was a sub for the day, they could combine classes, or I think just some classes combined anyway to make this experience. We also have 2 different assembly schedules at my school. So if this isn't something your school has, just logistically, it's nice to set up. So I didn't really have to manage all the times per se. We already have this type of schedule set up. So I just let people know, hey, this is coming up. I was promoting it. And we're going to have an afternoon assembly schedule. And here's where you're going to check in. I'm going to talk more in detail about this experience in the next episode. And this was really, really awesome for my school. It was with a U.S. Space Force captain, so a very new field in our world. And he's actually a computer engineer. So that was really awesome for the kids to hear from him. Now, if you're having a hard time finding people, then you could definitely think of other opportunities that are out there that are hosting live webinars. In a past episode, you actually heard the audio from a live webinar that I was able to participate in. And I got to be the host of this live webinar and interview an engineer at NASA who worked with the space rover Spirit and Opportunity. And that was actually her lifelong dream in middle school. And she's also still working at NASA, working with the current space rovers. This was an awesome opportunity. It was live, but it also is pre-recorded. So all that information will be linked in the show notes if you want to show this with your students. And I believe that this platform has other past webinars that you could check out. So this would be another cool way that you could bring this experience to your school. You could set it up as a virtual assembly, maybe even record the one that you're doing so you could use it for future years or a last minute sub plan. So it was a really awesome thing that I got to do with my classes. Very low behavior management. The teachers and students really liked it. At the time, we were actually learning about earth and space. So this was actually a good connection with my K through 5 classes. It wasn't completely random. It was something that we were currently learning. And so it really tied it all together with this virtual assembly. Also, bonus points on this, if you do this a week before a break, like spring break, winter break, a long weekend, your classroom teachers are going to love you even more. So highly, highly recommend. I'm definitely going to do this again for my school. And just, again, another cool way for kids to learn from people in the STEM field. As a recap, here are 3 classroom guest speaker ideas that you can use in your STEM classroom. First, you can have experts come in to build connections to class projects that you're working on. Next, you can host a STEM career day. And third, you can set up a school-wide virtual or in-person assembly. I hope that all these ideas are getting your wheels turning and how you can make these bigger connections and experience for your students with the projects that you're hosting in your class. And again, I don't want you to feel limited by all the details when it comes to setting this up. It's not as hard as you think. And that's why I co-collaborated with Sam Labs, and we created that checklist for you to help you get set up with getting an expert in your class, the whole process from start to finish, and really bring these experiences to life. So grab that checklist in the show notes. And also make sure to listen to next episode where I am getting interviewed by Shauna Douglas from Sam Labs. And we're going to talk more in detail about how this expert experience was set up at my school and other cool and relevant opportunities that you can do in your classroom. So I will see you there in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Elementary STEM Coach Podcast. I would love to connect with you over on Instagram at NaomiMeredith_ or send me an email to elementarystemcoachpodcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure to check out my website, NaomiMeredith.com, to see all the show notes from today's episode and shop my K through 5 STEM resources. Any questions you have, needs for resources, or ideas for episodes, get in touch. I'll talk to you soon.